What up, good people? It is your boy Cool McCain. It is Friday night again, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode. Play Callers Sports Talk, and I am joined, as always, on this side. Yes, sir. By Stephen Box. What's up, man?
What's good? What's good to this guy over here?
I couldn't remember if I had the follow me or not on, because sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But that's neither here nor there. Good people, we have an action-packed week. We have several important things, several interesting things, I should say, that have happened within the world of sports in the past week. And of course, we're going to talk about some of the highlights from those things. So, the main one, of course, would be the mammoth trade that broke on yesterday, I believe that was. So, we had Damian get traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. We had Drew Holiday get traded to the Phoenix Suns and DeAndre Ayton going back to Portland. Other pieces were included as well, but these were the three primary pieces. So to go over the trade in total, the Bucks received Damian Lillard. The Blazers got Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Tamari Kamara. The Bucks 2029 first round pick unprotected, and then swap rights on 2028 and 2030 picks. I don't think the Bucks are going to be worse than the Blazers in the next couple of years, so I don't think it's going to really matter. But at least it looks good on paper. The Suns receive Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson, and they get to offload DeAndre Ayton's contract. So that's an important piece for them, I believe. So another piece of this is the Blazers are expected to trade Holiday somewhere else. They have Scoot Henderson and some other guys already in their backcourt, so they're not necessarily looking to keep the piece. I think Drew Holiday works better on a contender, not a rebuild, so that definitely does make sense from the Blazers' perspective. All right, man. So we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this mammoth trade?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You talk about the pick swap not being that big of a deal, but honestly, I think it kind of is because here's the reality. You got to think about the fact this is 6 years off in the future. Dame is already 33 years old. So by the time that pick comes up, he's going to be 39. He might not still be playing then. He might be retired by then. And Giannis is going to be like 34, 35 by then. So he's already shown right now in his career he's had trouble staying healthy and being on the court. So can I imagine him not being as good or even possibly still playing when he's 34, 35? I could see that. So those picks might actually be more appealing than what we might initially think right now. Because we are talking about 6 years from now. This is not a pick swap for like 2 years from now. Because for the next 3 or 4 years, this puts Milwaukee in a good contention to compete. So obviously, those picks aren't going to be of any value over the next couple of years. But 6 years from now, it could be a good look for them. I think Portland got decent trade value in terms of they brought in a couple of guys that aren't, superstars by any means. But they brought in some pieces that could still help them be fairly competitive. They also got those pick swaps that they're going to be able to use in the future. And on top of that, we don't know yet what they're going to be able to get for Holiday. So they might be able to get some additional assets by trading Holiday. So it will be interesting to see kind of what else they get out of it. But I think overall, it worked out fairly decently for them. It's not like they really have much leverage. So at the end of the day, I think the biggest win for them was actually getting rid of Lillard and Eric's contracts. That was the big win for them. Phoenix actually, I think, won this trade as well because they were able to get rid of a guy, Nathan, that didn't want to be there anymore, who was no longer a good fit for the team, and they were able to get some depth. because we've said that was the biggest problem that Phoenix had going into the season was they didn't have a lot of depth. So they were able to actually get some depth pieces and a couple of guys who could become good rotational players for them. So I think overall it worked out pretty well for them. Real all they were doing was facilitating the trade, and they made it work out. When you look at Milwaukee, obviously they're the big winners in the trade in terms of star power. Um, we always talk about the fact they're already, one of the teams to beat in the East. This is just going to make them that much tougher because now you really have to defend the full court because Dan will pull up on you from half court, and that's going to create a lot more spacing in this offense, which is going to make Giannis near impossible to guard, as if he wasn't already tough enough. So I think it's a huge win for Milwaukee. The only thing that I don't really like about it is by getting rid of Holiday, you do lose some of his defense and some of his playmaking. He's been a really solid piece for that team. So it will be kind of interesting to see if it hurts them on the defensive side of the ball. But I think that Dame probably makes up for that enough offensively that it won't hurt them too badly. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch this year.
I'll give you my opinion here. So the Bucks got a boost in offense, a major downgrade in defense. To go deep into the playoffs, to attempt to win another championship, you need a guy on the perimeter that can guard multiple positions. That was Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was the catalyst for the Bucks getting to a championship, right? And without the injuries, I believe they would have at least gotten back to another one in the past 2 years since they won. So you're basically moving on from him. You're also giving up a 2029 first round pick, and you're swapping 2028 and 2030. So the reason I'm not concerned with those picks is I don't think this team is going to be as successful as people believe. Because number one, we also know that outside of just Giannis, Chris Middleton can't stay healthy. So you have Giannis, Chris Middleton, and you have an older Dame who's had some games that he's missed due to injury as well. So if you come into a situation where you have any stretch of the season where you're missing two of Dame, Middleton, and Giannis, and Middleton hasn't been the same since the injury 2 years ago. He was not the same player last year. I don't know if he'll be back this year or not, but just basing off what I've seen last year. So I think the Bucks took a big step back defensively. They did get better offensively. I, unlike you, do not believe that Lillard's shooting, which is streaky, like most shooters, there are days when they're not as good. Defense is a consistent thing. If you play defense, you do. If you don't, you don't. I think that they will have games that they will lose, and I think that when they get into the playoffs, they will see what they'll be missing with Middleton out there as the other guard with a guy like Lillard, who I'm not saying he can't play defense, but he's nowhere near the level of a defender that Drew Holiday is.
Yeah.
So I think that they will miss that in big games, and they will miss that if they make it to the playoffs and get deep there. So I think that's where that is for the Blazers. The draft picks, I think, aren't going to be as good as you believe because I think they're going to be bad before then. Get some picks and get better. So I think that pushing it out does make sense on paper, but I don't think it's going to make as much sense or be as big of a deal when you actually come to those years. We will see. It could possibly be, but I think by then they'll have gotten themselves back up to being one of the better teams in 6 years because I do believe, like I said, a downturn is coming because you're going to lose a lot defensively. You're not going to have that stopper when you need to get a stop on defense on the perimeter. Middleton, to a degree, but he was never as good a defender as Holiday. That's why Holiday unlocked, that offense and defense when he got there. Lillard's a shoot first guy, whereas Holiday was more of a facilitator. So that's going to be a change in roles for a lot of people in the Bucks as well. So, I don't think it's going to play out as well as most people think. And again, I've been wrong before, but I believe that this is not going to play out as well as people think. Another question is, did Lillard okay this trade? Because they didn't need his okay to do it, but was he okay with going here? Or did the Blazers say, screw you, I don't care where you want to go. This is what we feel like is the best deal. Bye. So if that's the case, we don't know yet if Lillard's going to come and say, hey, it's fine. I can play for the Bucks. I'm good with Giannis. Or if no, I still only want to play for Miami, right? And that's, we won't find that out until we get a little bit down the road. If he's fine with being here, at least, like I said, it does give them more offensive firepower. But like I said, you're losing a lot defensively, and I don't think that that's going to balance out in important situations. Aiton, Drew Holiday. I mean, I don't blame the Blazers for wanting to retrade Drew Holiday, as you did say. Depending on what they get for him, that could make a big difference in how you look at the trade overall. But right now, you have to say at least they did get a first round pick in 2029. Uh, they did get the swap, so I don't like I said I don't think that there'll be a big deal, but we'll see. The Suns. I mean, I completely agree with what you said about the Suns, so no need to repeat it. You know, more depth pieces. That's what they needed. They got rid of some contracts. In Aiton, they got rid of that contract, and a guy that didn't want to be there. So they came out good in this trade. So I think everybody got a little bit of a piece of the win. But I think once you get to the games, Grayson Allen, Keon Johnson, Drew Holiday, uh, 2029 first round of the pick swaps, you essentially gave all that up for Damian Lillard. So, hopefully he gives you 3 to 4 really strong years and helps this team get back to where they want to be. But like I said, defense is going to be an issue. The moniker always goes defense wins championships. They're not the same team defensively that they were before this trade.
Yeah, I will say this real quick too. In terms of Dame and him being happy, there is an old tweet of his that resurfaced where somebody asked him on Twitter if he could pick one player currently in the league that he would choose to help him win a championship, who would it be? And his answer was Giannis. So I don't think he'll necessarily be upset about the trade. I think he, would have preferred Miami, but I think he's okay probably with going and playing with Giannis since that's somebody he obviously had a level of respect for. But I'm kind of in between where most people I think are on this trade. Like I don't think that it's a bad trade for them. I feel like it might end up making them a little bit better. We will just kind of see during the regular season how they look, and then getting into the playoffs, how's this going to end up working out for them. But I think a lot of people have immediately done what people do, which is started jumping up and down and living in the moment and proclaiming that the Bucks are now the absolute favorite to go to the NBA Finals. And I heard somebody say that if Jimmy Butler takes the Heat to the finals with what Milwaukee just did, that he deserves to instantly go into the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, bro, they didn't get that much better. Like, let's calm down. They're not like a lock for the NBA Finals. Let's calm down just a little bit.
Um, you know, as far as the tweet, the video goes, yeah. But I mean, the one thing we have to remember about this is before he made the decision that he only wanted to go to Miami. And making the decision, you're basically saying on a level like, I'd rather go play with Jimmy Butler than Giannis. So I mean, we don't know. We're making an assumption based off of one old video, but we don't know. We haven't heard yet. We don't know if he's going to be fine there or not. Maybe he will. Maybe we won't. We won't find that out again until everything plays out. Uh, Hopefully, Drew Holiday gets a chance to go somewhere. I'd love to see Drew in Boston. If Boston could swing a deal for Drew Holiday, oh, that would make that team really good. There's a couple other places, but that's just the first one that came to my mind that could use a better version of a guy that they traded, which Drew Holiday is. More length, better shooter, and can take over at times. First time All Star last year. So I think that he would fit perfectly if Boston could put together the right pieces or right trade to obtain his services.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll definitely be a guy who is going to go to a contender, right? I don't see a team that's in rebuilding trading for him. I think that it's going to be a situation where a contender is going to go, and I think that's what he's going to ask for too, right? I think he's going to say, "Look, I want to play with a contender. I was already with a contender. I want to stay with a contender."
Yeah, that would definitely be, I'm sure, what he would want, right?
Yeah,
But Portland showed us, I don't really care what you want. But maybe Maybe if he's more open than the last guy, they'll do a little bit more for him. So one other trade to report, and this is kind of like a little funny thing here. So the aforementioned Boston Celtics decided, hey, we are going to make a move ourselves and go get us a player. So they signed Jordan Shackle. Um, this is only funny because I saw some articles where they say, "Oh, Boston made a move to combat what Milwaukee didn't sign Jordan Shackle." Jordan Shackle's a guy that's been back and forth between the G League and the NBA the last couple of seasons. Not really a needle mover, but we've said the same thing about guys like Gabe Vincent and some of those guys in Miami. So sometimes when you get that opportunity, uh, you kind of show up and it's the right fit for you. So we'll see if it does end up being kind of a low key sneaky move for at least a rotational player, that can help them out and bring some more court vision, some more ball handling, some more decision making at the point guard position. We'll see if it works out. Do you have any thoughts on that, sir?
Nope, got nothing.
All right, and then uh, big interesting thing: NFL gambling rule
Hmm.
has been updated. So I'm gonna read you the rule here in a second, but before I do, I just want to say it's interesting how they did this in within this season, right? I felt like this was something that could have been done before the season so that guys that were being punished could have the punishment that they're now going to get versus what they were originally getting. So, long story short about the rules, we're going to kind of circumvent all the talk and just give it to you raw. If you're betting on a NFL game, you're automatically going to be suspended a year before you can be reinstated. If you are caught basically fixing a game or anything of that nature that you're playing in, you're banned for life. So you're Pete Rose at that point, which makes sense since baseball's been doing that for a long time. Um, if you bet on your own team, you're going to be suspended for 2 years before you can be reinstated. And if you bet on another sport, first offense is 2 games, second offense is 4 game suspension, and then third uh, time would be a year. So we have a couple of guys who were suspended.
Hold on. Let's back up because there's 2 points of clarification I want to make on that. So first of all, if I'm reading correctly, because it actually says if a player bets on an NFL game involving his team. So I take that not just to mean your team specifically, but if even if it's the other team, but you're playing against them, then that still is a 2-year suspension. And then the part about the betting on other sports, you are allowed to bet on other sports. The rule is that you cannot do it from an NFL facility or while you are working.
Yeah, so I didn't think I needed to clarify those 2 points because
Well,
we
some
know
people
that
may
that's
not
what
have read
happened.
it, so I just wanted to make sure they had all the
Well,
information.
no. Well, the reason I said this is because we knew that it was in the facility from what happened with Jameson Williams, and I was actually going to touch on that here in a second. I was going to say that the suspensions for betting, a la the Jameson Williams case, as well as there was one other guy. Theirs is being amended because they did bid in the facility on the games. So yeah, you can't bid in the facility. And then as far as the other point, it's fine that you clarified it. No biggie. I think the guys that watch our show and gals kind of would have got that. That you're bidding on a game that you're playing is essentially bidding on your team, right? Because you're either bidding for your team doing well or for your team doing bad. So you're still essentially bidding on your team. So, but clarification is never a bad thing. So, with that being said, now we have a couple of people who are going to be getting off of 6 game suspensions early. So my thing with that is with them now being off in essentially 4 games because their suspensions are going to end after this week. Why wasn't this done in a timely enough manner so that they could serve the proper suspensions based on what the new rules were? because they were suspended for 6 games because at the time that was the rule for your first offense. Now that's the combination of your first two offenses. So they've already served what would be for a second time offender under the new rule, which was less than a first time offender under the old rule. I feel like this is something that the NFL should have gotten done in a timely manner before the season started. Put this in place to start the season so that it would be fair, because you've essentially taken 2 extra weeks away from players because you did not expediently put this in place.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a catch-22, right? Because you might take a guy who was suspended for a year because they were betting on, the NFL, right? Or you had a guy who was maybe if you had somebody who was suspended a year, but they were betting on their own team. Well, that person should have got a 2-year suspension technically, but they got, landed 1 year. So for them, it works out. It's a more lenient process. And I'd have to go back and look and see if anybody who was suspended was actually betting on their own team, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But for those guys who were not betting on the NFL, they were betting on other sports, and they just did it from inside the facility, like you said, they were given these 6-game suspensions. You now come out and change the rule to where they only would have missed 2 games, but they've now missed 2 extra game checks. And because you waited so long to do this, not only did they miss those 2 game checks, but you've also potentially hurt their teams because they weren't on the field to help their teams and they should have been out there for those 2 games. So I don't know what the holdup on this was. I don't know if it was just having trouble getting an agreement between the NFL and the NFLPA, but I agree with you when you say that this is something you should have done sooner because you knew that it was going to directly impact people that were suspended last year.
Yeah, and if you wanted to say, you grandfather in any longer suspensions to what we doled out, but if it's shorter, we'll go ahead and let you off. You could even done it that way. Um, as you said, I don't remember if there was a guy who was bidding on his own team in this last round of people because that happened a while ago. But hey, if you know you're going to put the rule in place during the season, why not make it fair, especially when it would help people by putting it in early? But that's kind of how things go.
I mean,
So
I
we'll
guess
move
I
on.
guess with the way the NFL rolls, we should just be thankful that they're not going to still just make them do the entire 6 games, right?
That's fair. All right. So another interesting story here with the NFL. NFL is kind of dominating things here tonight. Chandler Jones got arrested in Las Vegas. So from the things that have come out so far, it sounds like it was for violating an order of protection. So we don't have all the details yet, but I at least wanted to mention that just so we can kind of look into that, kind of see what's happening, and then monitor it as things go on. But it sounds like it was an order of protection that he violated from what's coming out so far.
So, this is the most recent update that I've seen, and I'm just now seeing this. I haven't had an opportunity to verify this, but it says Jones was arrested after stealing items from outside his ex girlfriend's house, and then he proceeded to burn them in his backyard, and then sending her videos while doing it. So he was served a temporary restraining order yesterday and immediately began sending the woman Snapchat messages in violation of the order. He was later seen on
Yep.
her home
So
security camera and went to her house at least twice. So,
yep. So yeah, once the order of protection is in place, it's not a wise move. But there's also been some things saying that he was checked into a behavior facility before an article I kind of pulled up. I was reading over here.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he apparently
it
made
happened
a
like on
few posts.
Monday.
Yeah,
So
he
like
made
it's
some
it's
posts and
crazy
some
for him.
people, I guess, contacted the police department, said they were worried about him doing something crazy. And so he was basically forced into custody, I guess, like for his own protection kind of thing.
Hmm. So yeah, wild week for Chandler Jones, man. Hopefully he can get a grip on everything. Sometimes, when a relationship ends and it's not something that you wanted to happen, um, sometimes you kind of flip out a little bit, kind of do things that are out of your normal character, but hopefully he can, get things turned around. Love to see him actually play some more, but you got to get the off the field thing straight so your mind can be right first.
Yeah, I mean,
So
man, we talk so much about, player safety and things like that. And, you know, anytime you start seeing people do stuff like this, you start to worry like about people's mental health. You worry about, physically, like, is this early signs of CTE, things like that. So, hopefully, this is just a bump in the road, man, and he can, get through it in a healthier way.
yeah. So we'll move on. One thing that we didn't have on the docket to discuss, but you kind of touched about it when we were in the back here getting ready. Chase Claypool. So he was asked about the games, about losing and everything, how he feels about it. He says doesn't like losing, goes out, just kind of does what he needs to do. Focus on the areas of the game he can control, finishing blocks, effort on plays, things like that. He was asked directly whether he feels he has been put in a position to showcase his skill set. He paused and then he said no. So some other things that he said as well, but that's the one I want to focus on, right?
Hmm.
So Chase Claypool has been on two teams, and in both situations, he hasn't been put in a area to showcase his skills, so to speak.
Hmm.
So my question is, what are these said skills, and how come two different organizations are unable to showcase these said skills that he's claiming to have?
I mean, I will say this. His first year with the Steelers was actually pretty decent, right? I mean, I don't remember exactly what his numbers were, but I do seem to remember him actually playing pretty decently. But you know, it's one of those things, man, where like that organization right now is a dumpster fire, right? It just is. I mean, we heard the Justin Fields comments. Now Claypool coming out, so clearly there's some issues inside the organization. But I think one of the bigger issues that I'm seeing is, and I'm really only specifically speaking about those two guys right now because they're the only two that I've seen come out and make comments. But right now, both of those guys might want to take a look in the mirror and ask, are they contributing to the problem or what? Because, you know, just saying, haven't really seen much out of Chase Claypool in the last couple of years. And outside of running in a couple of rows, we haven't really seen much out of Justin Fields to warrant for him to go start complaining. So, not saying those guys aren't necessarily right about what they're saying. I'm just saying that sometimes you got to look in the mirror first. Be accountable.
Yeah, both of those. That team is dumpster fire, right? That
Hmm.
team's a dumpster fire.
Yes.
That team is so bad that I have Justin Herbert on bye next week in fantasy, right?
Hmm.
I forgot to get it. Well, I had a second quarterback, but I ended up dropping them to pick up somebody because Eckler got hurt. So I was perusing through the day saying, man, I gotta find a quarterback for next week. I mean, Herbert's only gonna miss that 1 week, but I gotta find a quarterback. So guys left like Sam Howell and Florian, guys like that. So I started going through their schedules. My eyes lit up. Sam Howell's playing the Bears next week. That's an automatic 300-yard game, right? The Bears are future. So Sam Howell was the pick because he's going to be ticked off. And we'll talk about this later, but I'm going to give you a hint, a little preview. He's going to be ticked off after he gets his butt whooped on Sunday. And he's going to want somebody to take it out on, right? You know how you're the middle kid and your big brother beats you up, but then your little brother comes in the room and starts laughing at you for getting beat up and you go beat him up? Sam Howell's that middle brother. He's about to get beat up by his big brother this week. And next week, he's going to beat on his little brother. So, yeah.
I'm an only child, so I'll just take your word for it.
He's the guy you've seen in the movies. Stop playing. But yeah. So that was fun. That was interesting for me to see. And then lastly, for players themselves, before we get into uh, everything else, Damar Hamlin will play Sunday.
Yeah.
He's returning to the NFL, so he's been cleared and everything. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, there's really not a whole lot to say here. I hope, because we've seen a couple of situations in the last year or two where guys have been cleared to play when maybe they shouldn't have been. I hope that he is fully healthy. I hope that he's able to go out there and safely play football. And as long as that's the case, I'm happy for the dude, man. You know, to be able to get back out there and do what he loves. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm also a little concerned just because you know all everything that he had. I understand it's been some time. He's got back healthy, but this man was in a bad state at one point. So I'm a little concerned with him getting back out onto the field. Football's a violent game, but hopefully it'll
Hmm.
just be a little. They'll monitor him. They'll maybe get some extra monitors and things on him, so if there's any type of situation, they can quickly respond. I think it's admirable to want to get out, right? I think it's admirable to want to get out, play the game again. You know, back on the field. You went through everything to get there, but we'll pray for that man definitely, and I hope that things go well for him. But I am a little concerned that things could go bad. I hope I'm wrong. Don't get me wrong. Would
Yep.
love to be wrong, but just some concern as a after seeing what he went through, another human being to a human being, putting himself back in that situation. It's a little concerning.
Yeah. And honestly, man, if they don't have concerns about putting him on the field, that would make me question the organization, right? They should have some concerns, and hopefully they do. Hopefully they have really made him go through all kind of medical testing, really get approval from like multiple doctors. You know, really have been in depth about making sure that it's safe for him to play football.
For sure, for sure. So, we're still going to talk a little college football here, but a couple more topics before we get there, right?
Okay.
So, NFL Week 3, it's happened, it's done. Was there any game that stuck out to you? Anything you wanted to kind of, just touch on any of the matchups from Week 3?
Um, trying I'm trying to remember like if there was anything that I didn't talk about on our morning show that stood out to me, because for the people who listen, I don't want to repeat it. And if you didn't listen, you should. So I think for me, the story that I kind of laugh about right now is this whole Daniel Jones situation. Apparently, some of my players were asked after the game what they thought about Daniel Jones and his contract, and apparently some of my players, which I take this somewhat with a grain of salt, because it's funny how everybody was an anonymous quote except for Dre Greenlaw. So I always put a little question mark when I hear anonymous quotes. But at the end of the day, the story basically was no one is afraid of Daniel Jones. Everybody thinks that the Giants overpaid him, but it is what it is. And I just laugh because I hear people getting upset about the comments, and I'm like, but Daniel Jones looked like he was scared. The dude, like, I mean, what they said, that he didn't want to throw the ball down the field. He wanted to just take little short passes, and they knew it. If you're going to be a quarterback at this level and you want to be a franchise quarterback, sometimes you have to be willing to force the issue. You have to be able to make plays, because you clearly weren't having success throwing the ball short. At some point, you have to be willing to take chances. So I just find it kind of funny that there's actually people out there getting upset about the comments, because nothing that was said wasn't true.
So yeah, there's a couple of things I'd like to maybe rehash, some hash for the first time. So I'll start with the Bengals and Rams game. Jamar Chase, love what he did. Joe Burrow came out, toughed it out. Didn't have a great week fantasy wise, but as I said last week, this was a must win game. If Joe Burrow could drag his carcass on the field, he was going to be out there. He dragged his carcass out there.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders are who we thought they were. The Cowboys are imploding a little earlier than normal. That loss to the Cardinals, hilarious on so many levels.
It really is.
Because I just want to know, are you still them boys? That's all I want to know. Panthers, doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You don't put a line to protect them. It's not going to be pretty. Bills put a nice whooping on the Commanders. Browns put a pretty solid whooping on the Titans. But if we're going to talk whoopings, if we're going to talk getting your ass spanked, if we're going to talk getting your pants pulled down and a paddle put to you and then a belt, we have to stop in Colorado with Denver. 70 burger. You allowed a team to go out there and put up 70 points on you. And this was so bad that on the last drive, the coach just had people go down and not even just get a first down and go down because all they needed was a field goal to tie or break the all-time points scored in the game record. That's how bad this game was. And I will say this: if the Denver Broncos defensive coaching staff is still in place, there better not be any defensive coordinator, position coach, boy, anything to do with the defense that should be let go this year. If the Broncos can perform like that and everybody stinks. That's all I have to say on that. Big win for the Texans. CJ Stroud, shout out to him for being offensive rookie of the month. And the Falcons are who I thought they were.
Shout out to Tank Dale, my fantasy superstar from this past week.
Yep. Shout out to Justin Herbert, mine from this week, and DeAndre Swift. Appreciate you guys.
But look, I just want to say this in regards to the Denver Miami game. I told y'all Sean Payton was overrated. Y'all didn't want to listen.
I think everybody believes you, sir, except for people in Denver. I think everybody else already believed you.
No, a lot of people didn't definitely not believe me, sir. I was told by many people that I was a hater and that Sean Payton was a great coach and that I was going to find out how wrong I was. I'm still waiting.
That's sad.
Still waiting to find out.
Your circle of people is wild because I didn't have many people that were saying that. That's wild. That's crazy.
My circle was hyping.
You have to do it in more than one place before you could be great. Wow. I didn't even think that existed, but hey, I guess anything's possible. Right? Anything's possible.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, man. So another quick topic we'll bring up, then we'll start to hit that college football, some of the last week in review, anything you want to talk about from there. But before we get to that, quick bit of non-NFL news, but still professional football news. So the XFL and the USFL have announced that they are going to be merging. The details of this merger have not come out. There have been some people within the circles that I know that are of the opinion that The Rock and Danny Garcia and that group is going to be backing out. That would be horrible. And if you're the USFL and you agree to that, you basically just spend a bunch of money to shoot yourself in both of your feet and your shoulder. Because there is a rampant group of XFL fans that are not going to watch a USFL product. There's a rampant group of USFL fans that are not going to watch an XFL product because they feel like they're in competition. So even if you're, they're supposed to be kind of renaming and rebranding it, but you're going to need to have those figureheads, those faces. And, you know, even if Danny Garcia leaves, there's no way you're going to let The Rock leave this product because The Rock is his own icon. So if you have him there, you have that opportunity because you can have him hype it up. That's what he's great at. He's a hype man, right? From his days as a professional wrestler to Hollywood, he's a hype man. So you want to have him there for that piece. I doubt that they would do that and allow that to happen. Now, anything is possible. I will put that out there. Anything is possible. But it wouldn't make sense for the USFL to basically buy the XFL, merge it, and then come with a new name, and still just be the USFL. So I think that there will be some sort of merger. The rumor started because The Rock and Danny Garcia's XFL emails bounced back now. Well, I mean, there's a merger, so it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be XFL anymore. So that makes sense. They're probably working, my assumption, that they're working behind the scenes with USFL to kind of combine things, get the right rules from both leagues in place, what's best for this new league that's going to be there, and how everything's going to play out. I would love if they kept like an XFL division, a USFL division, and then they were just, the one together.
Hmm.
Um, so it would be fun to see, but it at least gives you alternative that's going to be your best for spring football. I think it's going to be called the National Spring Football League, the NSFL. So hopefully this will be somewhere that a lot of guys can get an opportunity to get looked at from the NFL and get some of those shots, like some of the guys from USFL and XFL were already doing. So just glad that there will be that alternative. I'm a big fan of football, so if they put that together, I'll probably watch a couple of those games. Like I said, more details forthcoming.
Yep.
We'll get them to you when we find out.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, man, I honestly don't think that either one of those leagues independently was going to stick around very long. So I think finding a way to merge together probably is their best bet to ensure some level of longevity.
Fair enough. And then we will move on to one of my co-host's favorite part of the week, our college football review from last week. So, man, anything that stuck out to you in college football last week?
Ah, man, it's a lot that stuck out last week, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so first off, man, the Big 12, or the not the Big 12, the Pac 12, you got to respect what they got going on out there. I mean, this is a league that basically was torn apart because they couldn't get a TV deal, and it's kind of funny now because there are so many teams out there that are playing really good football right now. And I think you have to obviously credit Coach Prime for helping with this, but a lot more people are tuning into Pac-12 games and actually watching now. So it's a little bit unfortunate that the league basically got torn apart before that happened because they probably could have got a better TV deal if people had been tuning in sooner. But they're going out with style this year, man. Those teams out there are playing really hard. Had one upset, but a really good game between Oregon State and Washington State, um, who actually, ironically, are the only two teams that are actually left in the Pac-12 right now that are actually going to be Pac-12 next year. Or they'll end up being something else, but like they're the two that haven't been picked up by anybody else yet, right? Alabama to me, big win over Ole Miss, but they still don't quite look dominant, right? They don't look scary. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue to go. My Florida State team, couple of tough road games back to back weeks. Boston College, red bandana game. Went into Clemson this week. You know, Clemson's a team that I felt like went into that game feeling like they had been disrespected a lot. Felt like people were doubting them. They're playing at home. Their fans like showed up for a noon game, which just irritated me. And very hostile environment. Florida State hasn't beat them in like 7 years. So obviously, I know a lot of people look at it like, oh, it was a close game and they had to come back from behind and win in overtime and all that other stuff. But that was a huge win for Florida State. So, I do expect them to play better at home this week. I'm going to need them to play much better against Virginia Tech. If they go out there and have a close game this week, then I'll worry a little bit. Um, then obviously, USC continues to roll. They got a big matchup this week with Colorado, who got the brakes beat off of them by Oregon, which I'm sure you'll probably have some thoughts on that as well. So lots of big things going on last week, man. Just a lot of top 25 matchups that we got a chance to see. Um, LSU, Arkansas, another nail biter that kind of happened. So I love the fact that right now I don't think we've ever made it this far into a season. Which I mean, we're only 4 weeks in, right? But usually at this point in college football, the top 3 or 4 teams have kind of separated themselves, and you're like, those are the 3 teams that really have a chance to win a national championship. We're still like 8, 9 teams right now that are all really competing for those spots and could win a championship this year. So it's kind of exciting that we still have so many real contenders out there.
Yeah, I'd hate to play Notre Dame this coming week
Yeah.
because they're going to have a
I
fire
left.
that we haven't seen in a
I knew
while.
you had some comments. I left that one for you.
Yeah. Ohio State got outplayed but won the game, and guess what? That's just like a boxing match. You get outpunched, but you land a knockout. So, hey, win's a win. I take them all. Penn State, big 31 zip blowout of Iowa. So, of course, Iowa will definitely be moved out of the top 25. Right? You can't be like that and still stay in. The Washington State Oregon State game, I believe I picked Washington State. Um, it was a guess, to be honest. So I'm not going to take a lot of credit for it. I just looked at say, it's going to pick somebody, right? So I'm just going to be honest here.
Eeny, meeny,
But
miny,
two
mo.
games, yeah, something like that. So two games that intrigued me that we didn't discuss, and I will get to Colorado. Definitely get there. Got some things to address about that. So number 18 Duke and number 20 Miami pretty much did the same thing. 41-7 wins against an 0-4 UConn team and a 2-2 Temple team.
Mm.
And ironically enough, this is a funny story. Miami played Temple at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So that would have been the one time that I could have actually enjoyed paraphernalia for my favorite um, professional football team while watching my favorite college football team spank up on the team representing Philadelphia in that game. So wasn't able to make that work out, but I had tried. I thought about it, but got to make good decisions long term and have some other expectations. So we didn't make that move. But on the Colorado got beat. Colorado got manhandled. Colorado got took behind the woodshed. But you know what the thing about it is? They were okay with being took behind the woodshed. See, they understood that they don't have a talent. If you've listened to Coach Prime, and there are some people say, "Oh, his name's not Coach Prime, he's Coach Dion." You don't call any coach by their first name. We normally say either Coach if they have a nickname, Coach whatever. Like when Ed Orgeron was coach, we said Coach O. So is that a problem, or is it a problem because it's Dion's? We're saying Coach Prime. Can't have it both ways. Let's get that out there first. Oregon and the rest of the college football coaches and the media celebrated this shellacking. So the question I asked myself, why is the rest of the NCAA coaches celebrating Oregon beating Colorado? It's not going to change anything about Colorado. You're still going to see rappers, athletes, actors, singers. All those people are still going to be there supporting Colorado and Dion. It doesn't stop because they lost the game. I said before, there was reports that coaches were sliding over to Oregon, giving them information on things they could do to help them beat Colorado. If that's the case, it just shows that what Deion Sanders is doing, Coach Prime, is working. I've said this every week. It doesn't change. Coach Prime has been a father figure to these guys. Some of them need some tough love. They've got a 5-star quarterback that doesn't play. They asked him why he didn't play, and Coach Prime was very, very clear. He didn't say in these words, but to paraphrase, when he gets in the film room, when he puts the time in on that tablet that we can see, when he's logging in doing that work, when he's getting it done in the classroom, when he's getting it done in the film room, when we're seeing it done in practice, that's when he'll play. If he doesn't want to do those things, he won't play for Colorado. And here's the thing. That's acceptable. Why? Because he's being honest. He's not bad mouthing the kid. You ask the question, he answers the question. You have a problem when Coach Prime says that. You have a problem when he's hugging the kids, when he's lifting them up, when he's saying, it's me that they're worried about beating. It's not the kids. It's me. It's Prime. It's Deion Sanders that they want to beat. So nothing that he does is going to satisfy you unless he were to fall into what a lot of the other coaches are. Even the coaches of color, they don't represent the hood, right? They don't shout out that portion of America where most of these kids come from. Coach Prime does. That's a problem. He didn't come up through the ranks as an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, position coach, blah blah blah. He coached high school. He went to a HBCU, coached there, was successful, came here, right? He got an opportunity because his team was so bad. If Colorado's not that bad, maybe he's not even there. Well, more than likely he's not even there, right? But to come full circle, as he said himself several times before this week, I'm about 7 or 8 dogs away from being where I want to be. I'm gonna tell you where those dogs are at. At least one of them is in that backfield that he's looking for. There's about 3 to 4 of them that are on that offensive line, and the other 4 on the defensive line. So when he gets some help on the offensive line, the defensive line, I think another running back or two, another wide receiver or two, yeah, we're going to see something very interesting. And as he said, you better get him this year. He said it, he meant it, he's here to represent it. So I don't mind people hating on Coach Brown, don't get me wrong, because he's very boisterous when he wins. I got receipts out of all this. So I get it. But other coaches, not coaches that he's played, but other coaches are celebrating this because they want so bad for this man to not succeed. And that to me is a travesty.
So here's my viewpoint on this, right? I feel like nothing that Coach Prime has done in and of itself from a football standpoint is unique. It's just not, right? There are plenty of other coaches out there who serve as father figures to their players. As a matter of fact, I would argue that there's a fairly decent chance that a lot of where that even comes from for him is the guy that he played for and Bobby Bowden, because Bobby Bowden had that reputation as being a father figure to a lot of his players, right? So that may be, part of what influenced, Coach Prime to be that way. I don't want to say that that was the sole thing because I don't know what other influence he may have had, but it's a possibility that that was part of his influence for coaching that way. He's not the first coach to use the transfer portal. Lots of coaches have used the transfer portal. I mean, my coach has used it very well. We basically have rebuilt ourselves into a national championship contender with pretty much the transfer portal. So there's nothing unique about that, right? So you have to ask yourself if what he's doing isn't really that unique in terms of rebuilding the program or the way he's treating players. And, even if you talk about his old school approach, there are plenty of other coaches out there that had that exact same approach, right? So you have to ask yourself, what is it exactly that people are hating? And there's only 2 things that you can honestly say that people are hating about him. There are some people that just don't like his personality, right? He is very boisterous, right? He's very animated when he, talks about certain things. And some people might, call that cockiness and they don't like it, right? And they want to see him lose. It's the exact same thing that we see with coaches like Dabo, where, people love to see Clemson lose because everybody hates Dabo. But when you get past just the arrogance or cockiness, as some people might call it, the only other reason that you're hating on him is, like you said, it goes back to people feeling like, oh, you don't deserve this, right? Oh, you didn't go through the ranks the right way. You didn't build up your resume the right way. Or, we always have to assume that maybe race plays a part into it for some people. And we have to assume that even people who aren't necessarily looking at it from a race standpoint may not like the fact of you being a little bit more hood or celebrating the hood, as you said. So I think that there's a number of things that kind of lead to it, right? But it's not because of what he's doing, because nothing that he's doing is any different than what anybody else has done. The only difference in the way he conducts himself is He's going to come out and he's going to be him. He's going to be authentic. He's going to be real with you. And you know what? We all have known since he was Dion in college that the dude has swagger. Okay, we know that. That's nothing new, and he's not going to change it just because he's a head coach now. He's going to keep that swagger, and it doesn't matter if you beat him or you lose to him. He's going to still keep that swagger. At the end of the day, what's the
Yeah.
most important is he cares about his players, and he's out there and he's doing what he needs to do to help his team win games. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So, any quick thoughts on? We're switching gears here for a second. Any quick thoughts on the Thursday night game? We'll call it that we saw last night.
I actually did not even get a chance to watch the game last night. The only thing that really kind of surprised me was I started to tune into it, and then I saw the lines were up like 24-0. So I was like, okay, it's not even worth turning into. I did see that Green Bay ended up actually putting up some points. I don't know how competitive the game actually got, or they just scored some kind of points like in garbage time or whatever. But um, it made the game at least a little more competitive at the end. But I mean, at the end of the day, we both, I think, picked the Lions to win this division this year, and I'm certainly not seeing anything to change my mind.
Well, I'll just simply say the Lions are who we thought they were, and the Packers are swiftly becoming who I thought they were. Difference being, I did slightly miscalculate how good versus bad the Bears would be.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the Justin Fields MVP bandwagon like some people, or the Bears are going to be the best team, but I thought they'd fight for that second, third position. But boy, after a couple of weeks here, it's looking more like they're fighting for fourth. Who's going to make third, and who's just going to be very at the very bottom this year. So the
They,
Lions
they're going to be
again,
the sort of battling.
yeah. When they've played, it still might be the battle of the defeateds. But I think Minnesota will have one win because they're looking at to play the Panthers this weekend. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I really can say about that. It was an explosion of offense, and they were not ready prepared for it, and it didn't go well for them. So we're doing a little bouncing around tonight because sometimes it's fun. So we'll go back to college football here.
Hmm.
Any thoughts for games coming up this week? I'm gonna just throw one out there, and then everything else is all you.
Okay.
I related to this earlier. I'd hate to be Duke this week. You got to play Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is highly pissed and motivated. So this is the telltale game for Duke, right? We've been talking all season. When are we going to see what Duke's about? Blah 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 blah. This is the game. This is when we see if Duke's for serious this year, or if they're just kind of like I'm looking at my own team, the Miami Hurricanes. You just had a favorable schedule, and you've been able to beat a lot of teams that you should beat. And then obviously with Duke, you surprised Clemson the first week. But this will tell us if they're a serious contender in the ACC, and not necessarily for a championship, but to be one of the better teams in college football. So that'll be fun to watch, and I actually will be tuning in to see some of that, at least checking out on my phone on play by play.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be a fun one to watch, and I'm curious to see because we actually do have Duke on our schedule this year, so I will be interested to watch this game and see how they do. I did see a little bit of the Clemson game, so I want to just see what we can expect out of Duke. Right, want to see is
Mm-hmm.
this team actually for real? Another one that I'm keeping an eye on is upset alert. Right, I think that Kentucky has a very realistic chance to beat Florida. The game is in Kentucky. They've played really tight the last couple years. Uh, so I'm not even just saying that like as a Florida hater. I'm just realistically thinking that that is a game that they could end up potentially losing. Um, Another one that might be interesting is Kansas at Texas. Right? Texas has looked pretty
Mm-hmm.
good this year, but they've also had periods where they've struggled in games and then they kind of pull away late. So I want to see, are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to get up for Kansas, who's obviously better than what you've been playing the last couple of weeks, but they're not probably as good as Alabama, right? So I want to see, is this a game where you might slip up a little bit, not go in there as focused as you should be, and Kansas be able to pull an upset off? So that
And
that would
one
be
thing,
interesting to watch.
one thing about Kansas, Jalen Daniels has been dynamic. So Alabama didn't have a dynamic quarterback. So this is something to watch. Is Jalen Daniels going to be able to make plays and do things to cause Texas to be befuddled and struggle? We'll see what happens with that. We will see.
So, another one I'm really interested in is Utah and Oregon State. Oregon State, obviously, lost the game last week, but they have a really good offense. That Utah defense looks legitimate. Uh, Utah has been without their quarterback for multiple games now. I don't know if they're going to get him back
Hmm.
this week or not, but it will be interesting to see, can they score enough points or can they limit Oregon State's offense enough to be able to get that win? So I think this is a big game for Utah if they want to stay in the top 10.
Definitely, definitely. Of course, USC and Colorado. I went on a limb last week. I picked Colorado. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna pick Colorado, but I will say this: the most important thing for me is to see Shadur Sanders and the Buffaloes put up more effort. Right, the
Mhm.
defense at USC is not the same level as the defense at Oregon, and
It's
that's
not.
not to say USC doesn't have a good defense because they have good defense, just not a great defense. So this will be an opportunity for them to make some plays. Obviously, missing Travis Hunter, and people talk about one player doesn't make a difference. I completely agree, but look at it as Travis Hunter, the wide receiver, was gone, and Travis Hunter, the cornerback, was gone. That's where I think it's difficult when you have these guys play both sides of the ball because if they're hurt, you're missing two players now.
Hmm.
So I don't think that he makes a difference. I'm not saying, oh, if they had Travis Hunter, they would have won the game. Like, the kind of beat down that they took, it didn't matter who you put out there. Prime time himself came out there and played. Back in his prime, in college, it might have been a close game, but they probably still would have lost, right? Just because the other team of what they were able to do.
Yeah.
But I think Hunter would have helped them put more points on the board. So I'm waiting on an update on Shiloh because he was injured in the game as well. I think it was his kidney, I believe. I'd have to double check, but I know he got an injury to an organ and he had to come out and go to the hospital when he got home. So checking to see if Shiloh's going to be able to play because if they don't have Shiloh or if they don't have either one of those starting corners or Hunter, that's going to be tough. But
Yeah.
I'm just interested to see how they play. Not the points necessarily, but they go out there and they give it their all. They push their dogs and they say, hey, you might beat us, but you going to know that you played Colorado. That's what I'm waiting to see this week. And I hope that we do see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Caleb Williams is obviously going to put up points, right? We
Oh,
know
yeah.
he's going to go out and get his. So I don't think that it's going to matter if USC not scoring. I think that the question is going to be, can Colorado go out there offensively and put up points and make this a close game? Because if they get it into the fourth quarter, you're at home. It's going to be a crazy environment. So if you're able to get the game into the fourth quarter and it's still close, you have a chance to pull off the upset. Um, Hopefully Shiloh can play, man, just because if so, we have an opportunity to get something that's just kind of fun to see. Because I don't know if you noticed or not, but Jerry Rice's son actually plays for USC. He's actually their second best receiver right now, and actually leads the team in touchdowns. So we actually could have a Sanders versus Rice matchup this weekend, which would just kind of be a cool nostalgia thing for us who grew up watching Jerry Rice and Dion play against each other in the NFL.
This guy. All right, sir. So we're going to run through our picks and then we are going to get up out of here for the week. So we're going to start with the October 1st game, 9:30 a.m. The Atlanta Falcons at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who you got?
I'm gonna go Jacksonville. I think they need to redeem themselves.
Definitely Jags. All right. Then 1 p.m. we have the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. I'm gonna go Dolphins.
I think the Dolphins might be fooling themselves just a little bit. I sneaky feeling. I'm gonna go Buffalo.
That might just be gas, but I feel you. Um, we got Vikings versus the Panthers. I'm gonna go Vikings. The Panthers are a worse team, no offensive line.
If the Vikings actually had a pass rush that could do something about that horrible offensive line, um, I'm still gonna go Vikings. But yeah, this is please don't watch this game, anybody, unless you're a
Pass
Panthers or Vikings fan.
a pass rush works a lot better when you facing a horrible offensive line. Just saying.
I'm
All right,
still
then
not
we
sure
have
they'll have one.
and then another defeated versus defeated game, the Broncos versus the Bears. Sadly enough, I think I'm gonna go Broncos just because the Bears are that bad. Not that the Broncos are much better.
Um, the
And
real
you got to be
losers.
pissed after a 70 burger. You got to be pissed after that.
Yeah, the real losers are anyone who watches this game. But you know what? I'm actually going to pick Chicago because I think that defense is on mutiny. I think they're just going to refuse to play for their defensive coordinator. So I think the Bears are going to be able to probably do enough offensively to win this game.
Mm. All right, then we have the Ravens and the Browns. I'm actually going to take Cleveland here.
Yeah, I am too.
And then we got the Texans and the Steelers. The Texans play great against the Jags, right? Some teams just play great against other teams. But CJ Stroud looks to be gaining confidence. Kenny
Mhm.
Pickett seems to be losing confidence every week. So I'm going to go Texans.
I think Pickett actually did look a little bit better this past week when he didn't have to play one of the top two defenses in the league. Uh, so I'm going to go Pittsburgh. It will
All
be a
right, then
competitive game, I think.
we got the Rams and the Colts. I still don't believe the Colts. I think it's a hollow 2-1. I'm actually going to go Rams.
Um, you know what? I'm gonna go Colts. I'm gonna go on a limb.
Well, according to a lot of people, you're not on the limb. I am.
Okay. Well, I just I don't trust the Rams. I really don't.
And then we have the Bucks versus the Saints. Um, I would go Saints if Derek Carr was playing, but he's not going to play. And Jameis Winston took this offense and just ran it in the ground last week. He could be a little bit better with time, and he got his corrective. He's got his vision corrected and everything, but it looked so bad last week. And the Buccaneers are probably going to be a little ticked at what happened to them on Monday night. So I'm going to go Buccaneers.
Jameis Winston is going into this game wanting to get revenge on Tampa Bay, which means he's probably going to try too hard and cost his team the game. So I'm going to go Tampa Bay.
All right, then we got the Commanders at the Eagles. I'm going to go Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to go Eagles as well.
And we got Bengals and Titans. Bengals season still on the line, under 500. Bengals need this game. They're going to get it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Bengals.
Raiders at the Chargers. Chargers.
Yeah.
All right.
If
Patriots at
if they
Cowboys.
have enough wide receivers to get through the game, that is.
Nah, they'll still find a way. Herbert will throw the ball to himself if he needs to. Patriots versus Cowboys. I'm actually going to go Patriots. I think this defense is going to make things difficult for our RDP. And I think they'll keep it close, but I think the Patriots will find a way to win it because Wack and Cheese is not a lot better, but he doesn't turn the ball over a lot.
Um, I'm gonna go Dallas only because I think they're gonna be able to pressure Matt Jones into making some mistakes.
All right. And then my lead pop like every week 49ers against Cardinals. Definitely going 49ers.
Yeah. I mean, although you were wrong on it last week, I hopefully you're not wrong this week because I'm going 49ers also.
Hey, it was not my fault that Dallas didn't come to play. That's not my fault.
All
All
right,
right. And then we've
Jesus.
got it's not my fault. Then Then we have the Chiefs at the Jets. This could be a second lead pipe lock. Chiefs.
Definitely going Chiefs.
And then we have the Seahawks at the New York Football Giants. I am actually going to go with the New York Football Giants because sometimes you just got to go against the trend.
I want the Giants to win, but I'm picking Seattle.
All right. And then, of course, we have one other game that we'll need to look at, and that would be the Thursday night game for week numero cuatro. And there's going to be, hold on a second here, the the aforementioned, thank goodness that you can't flex yet, Chicago Bears at the Commanders. Definitely going Commanders.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, had our picks. We've taken this time, really made some things happen. We have some comments here. We were kind of flying through things, so we're just going to hit those comments now and then get out of here. So Steve says, good evening. Good evening, Steve. He says he'll pick Penn State. Rod says the Patriots are covering. What's up, fellas? Patriots, we coming. Steve goes Eagles. Steve also goes Patriots. And then Rod goes Chiefs, and he's taking the over. So just a couple comments there from some of our listeners. Appreciate you guys checking in with us, leaving your comments, your thoughts on those specific games. And you know where to find us next week, same time, same place. And as always, don't forget to tell 2 of your friends and 4 of your enemies, because just because they do not like you does not mean that they will not like us. Be out. We'll be back next week.